5 teams to watch, National League North. Yes, hello everyone and welcome to the latest and quite probably, to be honest, the final edition of this season's 5 teams to watch. And in this video we are covering the National League North. I was going to do the National League as well, but given that I will be predicting the full table, so we'll be chatting about every club in that one, so there really isn't a great deal of point to it. So this is probably going to be the last one for this season. But anyway, let's get into this. And the first team we're going to be talking about in the National League North is a club that is local to myself, and it is Darlington. I think the feeling going into this season compared to last for Darlow fans is almost worlds apart, really. I think at the start of last season there was quite a bit of apprehension about it. I think Alan Armstrong had probably taken him about as far as he could go, but the decision to appoint Josh Gowling, just a lot thought it wasn't going to work out, and they were proved exactly right with that. It was just never ever a good fit, but second half of the season I really turned it around and managed to keep their heads above water. Steve Watson came in, gave them a bit of a newfound belief, obviously managed to pick up the necessary results to stay up in the end, and you could argue they're going into this season with quite a lot of momentum behind them. I think Steve Watson and Darlington are a good match for each other, if that makes sense. I think what you get with Steve Watson is he really understands what fans of North East clubs expect in just players just going out there and giving their absolute all. I think as well last season there was quite a lot of deadwood at the club, but they seem to have been recruiting quite a bit this summer, so I hope so maybe it's going to be a bit of a fresh start for them, and who knows, maybe they will push up the table a bit more. I certainly don't think they'll be maybe down struggling again, but the question is, can they push for a top 7 spot? So the next team we're going to talk about is Chester FC. Now, you look at the recruitment that they've been sort of doing over this summer, they are not messing about. They really want to get themselves out of that division. I think they've been there since 2018 now, where a lot of Chester fans will feel as though that they should be competing at a high level, and it looks as though they're going all out for that. But with that will obviously come a bit of added pressure. But I think over the last few years, I think there's probably been a bit of a bland few years for Chester fans. They've been maybe sort of pottering about in mid-table a little bit, and maybe had flirted with the playoffs a little bit, but never really looked sort of too menacing in terms of a promotion charger. That might change this year. I think Radcliffe manager Anthony Johnson, who was obviously at Chester once, certainly thinks that they're going to be well up there. But as I said in another video, one of these videos, they're a club that are talking the talk, but they've obviously got to walk the walk now. But I think they've certainly got the players to be right up there. Next up, it is newly promoted Marine. Now, obviously Marine have been maybe become quite famous over the last few years. Obviously, got to the third round of the FA Cup while it was all during COVID and that, but managed to land themselves a plum tie with Tottenham, which just seems to have changed their fortunes forever, really. Got themselves out of the 8th tier, had a few years in the 7th tier, but again have managed to get themselves out of that. Were underdogs going into a playoff final last season against Macclesfield, but managed to pull it out of the bag. They're a club that know how to get results maybe when they are underdogs. You think of the amount of teams from higher leagues that have put out cup competitions in recent times, and as we have just mentioned, their win over Macclesfield in the playoffs. I think when they got out of the 8th tier, they beat a team that had finished higher than them in the table. So it's going to be a whole new challenge going into the National League North. It is quite a bit of a step up, but you look at the way they've been over the last few years, I think they'll maybe adjust just fine. Have they hit the ceiling yet? That obviously remains to be seen. But yeah, that is a club that very much have a feel-good factor about them, and they'll be carrying that into the National League North. So it's certainly not going to be an easy game for anyone to play. But yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on in this league, I must say. The next one probably is quite an obvious pick, but it is Scunthorpe United. Last season finished second in the table behind Tamworth, but then lost out to Boston United in the playoffs. Obviously, at the start of last season, I think everyone thought it was going to be a fresh start, but I think it took about a month, maybe 2 months, for that all to unravel, and they found themselves in a bit of shit once again. But once again, they did manage to get saved, and maybe this time they are maybe looking to start to head back in the right direction. I think at this moment in time, you'd possibly even suspect it might be a bit something of a 2-horse race between themselves and Chester, but there's no guarantees with that. I think in this division there always is someone that maybe steps up a little bit out of nowhere. Like you look at nothing was ever expected of Tamworth last season, and look what they did. Obviously Kings Lynn a few years ago as well. So there is going to be a lot of pressure. Like I think again they're going to be seen as the team that everybody wants to beat, but can they? I think now they've had a year in the National League North, and I think they've got to grips with the fact that it's possibly obviously not as easy as they maybe thought it was going to be at first. I think they'll maybe come into it possibly a little bit more level-headed, I'd say. So yeah, I think this could be a year that you maybe see a different side to Scunthorpe that has maybe a bit more bite to them. And last but not least, it is Alfreton Town. Now, you might not like the way the Billy Heath side's set up, but it is effective, and it's proven with results over the last few years or so. Like always, maybe being there or thereabouts within the playoffs. I think got in them. I think they got him last season. Obviously, lost out. Same with the season before. Yeah, the maybe a club that just need that break, and could well get themselves into the National League one day. Obviously have been there before. But you think of obviously Boston end of last season got a run together and went up. Kidderminster the season before, York the season before that. So yeah, I think they'll be one of those clubs. I think they'll be maybe hanging there in terms of being in and around the playoffs. And I think the fact that they've lost out over the last couple of years will obviously hurt them, and they'll want to put that right. I think a lot of it maybe over the last couple of years has been maybe just ran out of steam a little bit towards the end. But I think if they've learned from that, then honestly you never know. As we say, like it's never an easy place to go. Like there always be quite an awkward side to play against. So yeah, I think that is definitely a team I'm going to be sort of looking out for, just to see how they get on. But that is that for this video, and I'll be back on Saturday. And Gateshead have arranged one last friendly, and while we're on the subject of the National League North, it is a home game against Farsley Celtic. So until then, take care, cheers for watching, see you later.